Hi, I'm MLK and welcome to the MLK Junior 2022 Assembly. This is currently being hosted by the Black Student Union, and I'm currently standing in the BSU corner. We are currently updating the corner as a project, and if you would like to come join, please do. Without further ado, please enjoy this assembly, and afterwards, please join us for continuing the conversation about intersectionality in the Benson Forum.
To me, intersectionality means having a bunch of different identities. So that can be anything from like your race to your sexuality to your gender expression.
Yeah, I feel like it's like your identity and who you are and like what struggles you face.
Like intercrossing and intertwining like different things.
Intersectionality, I think of it as like literally the intersections of your identities and how those things relate to each other like as you interact with the world. So like that might be like my identity as a woman, my identity as a Black person, my identity as somebody who's adopted. All of those things like interplay with each other and influence the way that I like navigate this world and the way that people see me in this world and the way that people treat me in this world.
I'm not just Muslim, I'm not just a woman, I'm not just a person of color. I'm all three. It's like you can't say one is more important than the other.
What intersectionality means to me is that I'm also not only a student athlete, but a woman and a person of color.
You don't know? Why don't you think you know?
Because I don't know.
Because school never taught you?
Yeah.
It's just something like they all like connect, and I don't think you can just say like, oh, I'm just Black or I'm Muslim. Like I feel like every single time you think of it, it's gonna always connect. I don't like when people, try to focus on just one because it's like, I'm not just Black, I'm not just Muslim, I'm not just a woman, I'm all three.
Intersectionality means where identities really meet the power behind them. When you have many identities that can connect, it can raise to more power, which leads to more voice, stronger voice. So intersectionality, when it comes to race, gender, and ethnicity, can strengthen voice and give more voice to where some of our voiceless. Yeah, MLK's work was focused on justice, racial justice, voting rights for justice, economic rights, and that's primarily focused on Black people. But I will name that our most discriminated against group and our highest death rate in the African American population is actually our trans. The highest number of murders by population. And so if we're speaking of justice, and oftentimes, they don't get identified when they are murdered. they are identified as either a male or a female, and not by, trans. And so that data doesn't get captured. And so the work to continue to build on the legacy is to make sure we actually identify who we are, but also to make sure that we're naming all the intersections of where justice needs to lie.
What are some difficulties that you face as someone who is intersectional?
Well, there's a lot of judgment that I face, I think. I haven't personally experienced like any backlash for my identities. But I know in the future there's definitely going to be like moments in my life where I'm trying to like look for a partner, and I'm going to experience racism, especially like in the gay community. There's a lot of racism and transphobia, so that's something that I'm gonna have to deal with in the future. Trying to find resources as a trans person of color, it's difficult because there aren't many trans people of color that are represented in the media, so I can't like find someone who looks like me and relate to them. So I'm like constantly like, how do I help my dysphoria? What do I do? Where can I find clothing that can help me look better? But I can't because there isn't any of that information on like TikTok media at all. So
in Arlington, truly, I was the only Black student in my high school. And then I went to a performing arts school down in LA where the population was like maybe 40% Black. And that was like the first time that I ever met Black people. And it was definitely a culture shock, because all of the ideas that I had about Black people and Black culture were like largely just like what I had seen on TV, which, as we know, is not always like accurate or real. It can be very skewed. So it was definitely shocking to like suddenly be around people who looked like me, but who had a very different experience of Blackness than I had.
My daughter is Filipino, white, and Black. And so one of my biggest fights for racial justice has been tearing down the system and it's white folks, right? And I have family that I love that's white, and I have my daughter who's white, right? And my daughter who's Filipino as well. And so I think that it's really helped me grow, and it's also helped me be sure to not just place Blackness on her, and make sure that she's cultivated to learn about all her groups of who she identifies with, and she's a girl too, so she's gonna be a woman, and so that's a whole. There's layers to being that I have no idea about, to being a woman of color and a biracial woman. So there's a lot of learning that I'm going to do with her, but a lot of work that I have to do to make sure that I create a world that's safe for her to be who she wants to grow to be.
Being mixed, I feel like sometimes for some people it's like you're not Black enough, you're not white enough to like fit in with like either side. So I just kind of embraced being both because I wasn't like Black enough to like be completely Black, but I'm not white enough to be completely white. Well, like I've had some people tell me I'm not Black or I'm not white, so I feel like it really just depends. Some people are really like more welcoming and like want you to embrace like both sides, but most of the time that's not the case.
I just identify as like brown. I don't really identify as like Black or Hispanic because I like do both of the things. I just kind of see like, my skin kind of, but like it's mostly towards the Black side is what I like show more, I guess you could say. I don't really like try to group myself with the ethnicity or like a culture. I just see myself as just a person here kind of thing,
Yeah.
But,
Individuality.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I don't think one beats the other. I'm just me. Like, my race and culture is just like how I identify. But yeah.
I feel like when you focus on like one specific identity, like you kind of forget the other parts, and then like you miss out on like a whole different perspective and a whole different like experience and stuff like that.
My identity gives me pride, and being a male, it gives me power. Being black, it gives me pride, but also there's history and current states of violence against black people, which could, and just discrimination, which makes it navigation very challenging, and racist policy and all of that. But I know as a man, I do have power and authority and positionality, which I try to use for justice, but yeah.
I mean, I'm proud to be all of the things that I am. I grew up as like the odd one out in almost every situation. I'm adopted and I'm black, and I grew up in Arlington, which is like a very small white farming community, like about an hour north. So there was like nobody in my life that looked like me at all. And so it did take time to like understand myself and my place in the world. And as I have like settled into that, it has become like a source of pride for me.
Everything really. It's important to like be prideful in who you are in like all aspects of yourself. Black man in the country surprisingly don't have an accent. Now living in the city, it's nice to be like myself in like a different part of a different place that I live.
I'm really proud of my religion because I think it gives me, a day-to-day lifestyle, and that's just what I focus on, and that's just something I'm really proud of because it really, gives me like a way to live. It gives me meaning and purpose.
I mean, I take pride in being not only like a black woman in America, but like someone who isn't just black. Like I have like background in history, and like I'm Eritrean, so like I have culture and traditions that I celebrate besides like American. There's like American Christmas, and then there's like Eritrean Christmas, like Orthodox Christmas that like connects to my religion, and like I take pride in that. I feel like that's really important.
Glad I have curly hair.
I'm proud that we've like been more socially accepting of mixed people, like not even just black and white mixed people, but like just biracial people in general, because I know that was like a larger issue in the past. So I'm proud that our society has become more inviting and accepting. It makes it more comfortable knowing that there's like other people who are like you.
Something I'm proud of is being a woman and being able to do everything that I want to do, because as a woman there's so many things you have to like be, there's so many rules you have to follow, and I'm like comfortable not following them. I'm comfortable being who I am and showing that to people, and if you don't like it, yeah.
What would you want your teachers to do better to represent the culture or like community that you left when you came to America?
It's not like they don't acknowledge it. It's like whenever I like talk about my culture, it's like they make me seem like an outcast of some sort. It's like it just makes me feel like I shouldn't be there,
I feel like Hale does a pretty good job, but BSU is kind of like a very, I only had like an online experience with it, and I felt like it was very prominently like a white kind of led person thing. I haven't seen much black like students in it. I also think it's like a general thing. I feel like it can expand to smaller like parts of being black, like an East African club where like Somalians, Ethiopians, Eritreans, and like Sudanese and a bunch of other people who are like part of East Africa that can join. I could totally make that club actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, so, totally make that.
That's really cool.
Thanks for watching the assembly. Please come to the Benson Forum for discussions. We really appreciate you for watching this, and hope you guys have a blessed day.